Welcome back to the Sounds Like Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Deborah Henne, and I'm here today with Andrew Kirkland, who's a speaker, a mentor, and an author whose life is a powerful testimony of redemption through Christ. He was once a kingpin in the drug trade, and he built a criminal empire believing success, power, and control would bring fulfillment. Instead, his world unraveled, forcing him to confront the emptiness he had been running from. Through a radical encounter with Christ, Andrew surrendered his life, leaving his past to walk in purpose. Today, he is a dedicated mentor and prison ministry leader, working with men of valor, where he disciples men weekly and teaches in jails, helping others to find the same freedom in Christ that transformed his life. His book, From Kingpin to Kingdom, chronicles his dramatic journey from crime to Christ, exposing the illusion of fulfillment in power and wealth, and pointing to the only source of true peace, Jesus. Andrew is committed to reaching the lost, discipling believers, and using his testimony to break the chains of deception that hold many captive. He currently resides in Tennessee with his wife, Amber, and continues to serve through ministry, public speaking, and mentorship. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you, Debbie. Well, that's a wonderful introduction, and I really appreciate you having me on today.
Oh, it's a joy to have you. So let's dig into your bio. So you got into the drug trade and built what sounds like a huge empire in that world. Can you talk to us about the journey into that? Because you don't just I don't know, maybe I'm naive, but I don't think you just kind of wake up and say, I'm going to be a drug lord. It's kind of like a process and a journey of going in deeper into that world.
Yeah, when I quit the drug trade, it wasn't because I got caught, but when I quit the drug trade, I was doing $7.8 million of marijuana sales annually, and the profits off that I made 10% profit. So you can do the math. I was making more than $750,000 a year. Um, it started with I had been a drug user of marijuana and harder drugs as I got older, but it really started with marijuana. And along with most addicts, their desire is to maintain their addiction without going broke. And so what a lot of people do is they will buy a discounted rate, which you have to buy a certain amount, and then you can sell a 3/4 of that portion and have your quarter of that portion for free by upselling at the market level. There's always, even in the drug trade, there's always a price break. If you're in distribution, that's how you make money. You buy in a tractor trailer load, and then you're able to make profit off of selling smaller amounts. And that's that was the fuel for getting into the drug trade originally, was just to make enough to fuel my addiction. And marijuana is an expensive drug. It's not like the cost of it was in the 60s, where a dime bag used to be a dime. Now it's considerable, and I was a heavy addict, so I would spend at least $100 to $150 a week on my habit of marijuana. So I just basically had to find the right people, and I go into maybe a little bit too much detail in my book, but I go into great detail of how I made these connections through friends, finding people that had the right product, finding people that had the money, and then using my God-given talent of talking to people and influence to make those connections and turn it into a business.
So when you're in that, are there certain, and I'm asking this, from the other side, looking for people that might be high risk for getting into this type of world. Are there signs that you can look for, or as somebody who would be looking to sell and be like, hey, I bet that person, even if they're not already, I bet I could convince them that this is the way to go. Just so on the other side of that, on the flip side, we can be aware of friends, loved ones, associates, and be like, you know what, I might want to stay closer to them and invest in them and keep them, just kind of ask some questions, maybe some hard questions if you're able to with your relationship.
Yeah, I would look for people who are on the phone constantly, who obviously there's markers of people that have addictions, and even people that live on the streets, that they have the ability to network, and the more drug users if you're thinking about somebody that you love and their network of friends are all drug users, they have the connections to make it into a business, and a small business at that. But I would warn them. I would tell those people, if you're noticing somebody that you have suspicions that they're selling drugs, to just let them know the consequences. See, I'm a very small statistic of somebody that made it out of the drug business, but statistically speaking, most drug dealers don't make more than $10,000 before they're either shot or imprisoned, and that also includes being robbed. So I believe it was only God's mercy and Him knowing where I'd be at today to be able to talk to other people about it and say it's unfruitful. And there's so many dangers with dealing drugs, not just using drugs, which I wasn't exposed to fentanyl when I was in the drug game, and I'm so thankful for that. But all you need is just one time using these hard drugs today to die from fentanyl exposure.
Hmm. Oh yeah. Now, what if you're talking to somebody, and I've heard this so many times with other issues, like speeding or something less dangerous, or it's
Hmm.
still dangerous, but they have this mentality of, well, it won't happen to me. It's not going to happen to me. What do you say
Well,
to something?
I mentor guys in the jail all the time, and it happened to all of them. And statistically speaking, you're going to get caught. Um, there are so many signs that police look for the behavior and how they drive, and just the body language of people that are using drugs and selling drugs, that the cards are stacked against you. Um, I am not smarter than a room full of police officers and detectives, and neither is anyone out there. So the longer you are involved with drugs, using drugs, or selling drugs, the higher your chances um, of getting caught. And especially, like I said, with fentanyl, now you can be charged with murder for possessing fentanyl for distribution. That's a serious charge. Here in Tennessee, they take it extremely seriously, and you could end up with a intent to kill, or um, a murder charge just by having fentanyl. And a lot of dealers don't even know what they're getting from their suppliers. They don't know that it contains fentanyl, but the cops don't care because you've already entered into the drug trade. So you're a willful participant in what you have. Just like if you drive somebody else's car and it has drugs in it and you get pulled over, you're responsible for what's in that vehicle. You're responsible for what you distribute as a drug dealer, and it is far too risky now with what is on the market. They even put fentanyl in marijuana. So if there's somebody listening to say, I'm just dealing with marijuana, well, fentanyl is they can dust it, they can put it into a spray, and they can spray it on marijuana that is less powerful or less potent in order to make it a higher selling, a higher potency product. I just would not advise it. You're going to get caught. That
And even
I,
if people are saying, I just use marijuana, and I know there's like legal areas, popping up everywhere. To me, it's just too dangerous. I don't care if the government says it's legal. It's a gateway, and it opens up. I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, because that I've heard from not people in the church, but just people, out in the world and society, and say, oh, well, this is legal. This is fine. And, everybody in my family does it. It's a family thing. And it's like, what?
yeah,
What?
yeah. It's being over glamorized and over popularized in our country and in our culture. And from somebody who is an addict from age 15, I can say with truth and knowledge, it has its strong addictive properties. And
Mhm.
if you're out here listening saying, I'm not addicted to marijuana, I would say, well, give it a shot and stop it for 2 weeks. Um, and most people will go through withdrawals. They will have the night sweats, they will have problems with their digestive system, with their eating habits, with their metabolism. It affects the way you think. It affects where you go and when you go do it because of your addiction. You're chained to that addiction. You just need to ask yourself these questions: am I addicted? And the biggest question I tell people who are addicts is play the 7 whys. Okay, ask yourself, why do I need this? Then honestly answer yourself, write it on paper. Then you ask yourself another why, and you continue to go down that list. You will, if you are truthful with yourself, you will eventually get to the answer that you do not need this. Um, Now, there are some people in certain circumstances where marijuana can be used in a medical purpose. And those purposes, I would say, are legitimate because let's say somebody's going through cancer treatment and they don't have any appetite or they have epilepsy. The alternative are very, very dangerous pharmaceuticals that will wear on your body even worse. You're trading one evil for another. You're still using a drug. But I, in no circumstances outside of those cancer patients and epilepsy do I condone using another drug. You're opening yourself up to a life of dependency on something else. Um, you do not need that drug, and it will lead to eventually you're going to hit a wall. Every drug user hits a wall where they're not getting the feeling from that drug. And what do you do from that point? You look for something else. And that's why they call it a gateway drug. You're always going to add alcohol to it or add cocaine or add mushrooms or LSD, or in my cases, I would stack 7 drugs in a night starting with marijuana. And it's by God's mercy that I can still converse with you right now because I shouldn't be able to. I mean, I'm a 1% chance. And so marijuana is going to lead you to be dependent on something that you don't need. And if you've never tried it, then you never need to. There's no case where marijuana is going to make your life better. Uh, Life is good. You just need to confront your problems, deal with them, and not hide from them behind the mask of drugs and alcohol.
Absolutely. Yes. Now I want to get to the turning point in your life. You talked about a radical encounter with Jesus that set you free from this life of bondage where you thought you were building this empire, you were making money, held in addiction, and then you met Jesus. I would love to hear about that encounter.
Yeah, it's God has to reach people in different ways, and making 15,000 a week in profit left me with the freedom of living like a millionaire, with unlimited bank account. And I would spend that money just as fast as I got it. I would indulge in strip clubs, in shopping sprees, in trips around the world, in impressing people, fancy dinners, all to feed this acceptance and approval that I was lacking from God. And it all has its end. Every celebrity and every wealthy person will tell you that once they have everything that they wanted, they see how how empty it is. And that's the first leg that God used to get my attention. It was I could no longer be happy with going to strip clubs, fancy dinners, trips, shopping sprees because I had done it all. There was nothing in the mall that I wanted anymore. There was nothing in my horizon that could make me happy. And in that mentality of being a drug dealer, I had psychopathy. I had cut off my emotions, and all I could feel was anger and pleasure. And now at this point, all I could feel was anger because pleasure was cut off from me. I remember going to the mall with my son. My teenage son, was in my custody and witnessed this whole thing. I remember going to the mall and we had done our normal shopping spree. and I went to put the bags into the car, into the trunk, because we were going to go get more stuff. And it was almost as if I could have just put those bags in the dumpster and it wouldn't have meant anything to me. And it was just this realization that nothing of this world was making me happy, and I was taking all this risk. Now that wasn't enough to get me out. The second thing was I would regularly be in the Madison area in Tennessee, where there's a lot of commerce and businesses and shopping places. And I saw this gentleman I would see regularly. He has cerebral palsy, severe cerebral palsy, and he would sell these papers, uh, to try to make some extra income. These papers that homeless people sell. And he was in a Panera Bread while I was in there, and I just walked up to him with arrogance, and I said, "You need to be on disability. You don't need to be selling these papers out here." And he told me, "God gave me this body, and I'm going to glorify Him with it." And it was an arrow to my heart, and I just felt something that I hadn't felt besides pleasure and anger. I felt conviction, and I realized that what I was doing was not building anything, was not doing anything for society that was good. And I had this existential revelation of what I was doing was worthless and meaningless. And the third thing that God used to get me out of this was I met a beautiful woman at a Walmart in the middle of a work day in the afternoon. She was doing some errands for the pharmacy she worked for. And I saw her, and this was a girl I had seen many, many years before at a gym, but she was married at the time. And I casually walked up to her, and I saw she didn't have a ring on, and so I started talking to her, and I said, "You don't know me, but I know you. I remember you." It was kind of a weird pickup line, but I got her phone number, and we went on a date. And this date was crazy, and you'd have to read about it in the book. But eventually, we got together in a relationship. I took her to St. Thomas. We stayed next to the governor, talking about a nice house. And she wasn't impressed with what I had, what I could buy for her. She wouldn't allow me to buy anything but a t-shirt. She actually wanted to be around me for my personality, which was radically different from anybody else I was hanging out with at the time who, wanted to feed off of what I had. And we're on the plane ride back to the United States, and I just started weeping. And she's like, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I don't want to be a drug dealer anymore. I want to be with you." And, she laughed and she said, I wouldn't be with you if you got caught. Because I was looking at 25 to life prison, federal prison for what I was doing. And so it took all three of those things for me to really wake up and see that what I'm doing isn't fulfilling. It isn't feeding society. I'm not doing anything with myself. And here's a woman that I want to spend the rest of my life with. And I eventually married her. We're almost 10 years married now, and we have a wonderful marriage. So that's what got me out of the drug game.
Wow. So God met you. He sent people into your life. And I love the story of the man with cerebral palsy. You know, I work in speech therapy, so like I have a real tender heart
Yeah.
for the population, such as that, who sometimes are trapped in their bodies because
Yeah.
their muscles are just spastic. And
I'm still friends with him. His name is Matthew Fletcher, and we talk almost on a weekly basis. And he's an inspiration to me. Every day that I don't want to get up and work, I think about Matthew would trade my worst day for his best day. And when somebody's complaining about their work or whatever, I just say, what would it be like if you woke up with cerebral palsy? What would you have to complain about then? And it's just a reflection on how much we take for granted in our culture. We live like kings in this country, and to complain that your French fries aren't in the bag, or that you've got to wait too long for traffic, or that things aren't going your way. What would it be like to have cerebral palsy? And barely be able to communicate with people and stand up straight and get a regular job. And that's what he wishes for. And I'm so grateful that God brought Matthew into my life to teach me and to help teach others about being grateful and to use the body that God has given you.
So good, so powerful. Such a powerful testimony and a wake up call for so many of us who, as you said, just take our bodies, take our abilities for granted. And we do kind of, I mean, I hear it at work too, complain, 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 complain. And it's like, no, we can wake up and give praise. We can wake up and give glory. And what a more powerful testimony to others that no matter who we are, where we are in life right now, that we can stand and praise and glory to God. So, so good. Such a good reminder. Now you have a website from kingpin to kingdom.com. Can you tell us what people will find on that site?
Well, yeah, when you click on the link, I designed it myself. It took a lot of time, and I put a lot of effort into it. Obviously, right at the front, there's a link to my book, which goes to Amazon. And it's also, you can purchase it through other avenues, but that's just the easiest. Everybody's pretty much got Amazon. And you go further down, and it gives my testimony in a short story. I've also included a lot of pictures from my time as a drug dealer, um, not in arrogance, but to just to show you how good God is and how He's been to me. You can see the arrogance in my face in those pictures. Um, and then you go a little bit further down, and I have all the services that I offer. I'm not a licensed counselor, but I will be glad to offer online one-on-one discipleship time. I'd love to get people. My favorite thing is to get people off the spiritual nursing bottle and into spiritual food, like Paul talks about. Um, I have a spot there where you can ask for me to come to your church, or for me to come to a jail. I will travel, and I will take time off of my job to do that. And there's a spot on there for prayer. Anytime people need prayer, I'd love to pray for you. They say the prayers of a righteous person are heard loudly by the Lord. And I'm not righteous, but I'm counted as righteous by God. So I offer those services to anybody that wants it. And I'm never too busy to talk to somebody and give them counsel and try to lead them to the Lord in prayer. And I want my brothers and sisters to be free from their sins and their inequities. And if I stand at the door waiting, I keep my schedule purposely as empty as possible, so I'm readily available for other people who need help.
Sounds good. So go from kingpin to kingdom.com and connect with Andrew. Discipleship is so important, so heavy on my heart also. And I think that we definitely, as a body of Christ, as a church, um, is something that we can press into more. I mean, that is the Great Commission, not just going out and winning souls, but discipling and doing that work of discipleship.
Yeah,
So
yeah. To
love
be
that
a
you're doing.
to
Mhm.
be a disciple, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, is to be a learner, and is to be a learner for life. Discipleship isn't so much a term of Christianity; it's a term, and it means to be a learner. And I will never know everything that the Bible has, not until I die and go to the other side, and that's when my knowledge will be complete. But knowledge and understanding and applying it, discipleship in Christianity, it's a lifelong journey. To say I know the Bible and I've read it and there's nothing for me, that's a fallacy. That's arrogance speaking,
Yeah.
and that's the Pharisee in you that says that. Until you die, you've got a lot to learn.
Always learning, always growing this side of heaven, pressing into discipleship. I absolutely love it. Check out his book on Amazon. Check out the discipleship resources that he has from kingpin to kingdom.com. And don't forget to swipe, tap, or click over to deborahhenne.com. Follow me on social on the X, Instagram, or Facebook at Deborah Henne Author. And let's not forget to tune into our thoughts to make sure they sound like Jesus's, so they sound like freedom.